Well, hi there, racing fans, and welcome to another edition of Winning Ways, where we've had some wonderful feedback. Feedback from India, Australia, Mike de Kock. He certainly caused a lot of trouble on this show. Kev, nice to have you with us again. You know how much trouble that guy caused.
No, it was great. You got the websites going nicely again. So I enjoyed the interview. That's Mike de Kock. If you don't know Mike de Kock, I had 12 years with him, so I know exactly. I thought he was quite good. I thought he was tame.
He was fantastic. He was tame, but he said the pet hates with the Australian stewards. He had a full go. The guy, one of the trainers who's warned off in Australia, got hold of him, said to him, "Fantastic interview." He says, "I feel the same way."
I've worked with him around the world. They are a nightmare, and they don't like the South Africans. They hate success, unless they're the Aussies.
Yeah, well, there you go. Listen, they didn't have much success over the weekend with their rugby. Got a clout all around by everyone that was involved there. But soccer, just talking about soccer quickly. Manchester United, I see you got the spick.
Football, we got the cup. We've got something.
You got the cup and you got the spick. You kicked out the poor Dutchman. He won the cup for you. Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. I think Man United have had their worst season ever. They win the FA Cup. They run fifth in the league, 1 point behind City.
That must kill you. That irks you. Phil Giorgio must be gloating.
Well, United pay City's council tax in the actual place. So as you hear the fans singing, we pay your council tax. So, I think if Mourinho comes, which I think is virtually 100% confirmed, it's going to be such an injection for United, and I think it's going to be a huge season. He'll change the whole game. We saw a glimpse of brilliance in some of their games. So it is there, but I think this guy, he wants them to go sideways and backwards. I mean, the possession, we had the most possession, always, in our own half, and pass back to the keeper the most times. If we start going forward like the old Man United, I think something can happen. But
you've got no one up front there. That's a problem.
Don't worry, Mourinho will plug them out of the youth academy. There's a few of those little kids that are... Rashford, they pulled him out of there.
Yeah.
He's had, I think, 8 games for United, 9 goals, and he 6 months ago he was playing in the under-18s.
Yeah. So all things looking, as they say, all rooms facing the sea.
All rooms facing the sea, as Mike de Kock says. But I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to go anything further because I don't want to upset too many people, because we always like to.
Well, listen, you can find a lot of strikes. You can have a lot of bets before the season starts.
100%.
You can start with me.
I'll be looking for a couple of the puppies.
As long as we can get rid of Wenger, maybe we'll get Van Gaal.
No. You guys are stuck with Wenger.
Wenger's there forever. Anyway, it's a horse racing show. If you didn't believe it, let's get busy and have a look and see what we got in our 3 to follow.
Travers. Flower Alley is the winner.
His dad, Distorted Humor, he's probably one of his best sons at stud.
I'll have another. Wins the Derby.
I'll have another in the Preakness.
Lilacs and Lace, 48-1 upset.
He's just a big, strong, leggy horse.
Right, well, let's go and have a look at the first one we picked up. Greyville Night Race Meeting, and this filly by Dynasty, bred by Wilgerbos-Drift. Dynasty was bred by Wilgerbos-Drift, but this one is bred by Mike Sharkey at Highlands Farm, and she's a Dynasty filly, and my goodness, was this a sparkling debut. Let's go and pick her up at the start. Raised Dinah Jet is her name. Good name. Let's go and pick her up.
100%. James comes out nicely. Hilal Hurtson gets the ride for Gavin van Zelwit. Drifted like a barge, went from 14 to 1 to 45 to 1. It's got the yellow colours on. It's about 4th last. Lyle's just giving it an easy chance in the beginning. You can see he gets bullied out of his position once or twice, but he stays one off the fence. And I must say, this kid's riding very well at the moment. Now, he must have been given instructions. Just give it a little bit of a chance, because it was against quite a strong field. And he's there, one off the fence. Looks like he's going to lose his position. The guy in the back pulls off the fence. He also is pulling a little bit. But he keeps his spot over there. He's in a perfect spot, James. I would say like 4 or 5 lengths behind them. One off. Nice to have a first timer, one off the fence. No horses on the outside. Not cramping, not doing anything wrong. And it's travelling very nicely. I mean, his Dynasties are super horses. He turns for home now, and a majority of guys would have pulled it out there now and come for an outside run for the clear run. He goes in amongst them, which is a good learning curve for the baby. He's not very hard on her, just with the hands and heels, changes his stick. There's plenty of horses in the front. They're green, gives us 1 or 2 smacks there now and really starts getting going now. He's not, I wouldn't say very aggressive, he's just teaching it to go through. Gets a clear run now up the inside now. Sparkling debut, I think. James ran on very, very nicely now, and not far off horses that they think quite a lot of Sail, Dawn Calling, Diamond in the Sky. Good run for them.
Well, yeah, when you see these horses have their first run against winners, you know that they're either very poor and the guy's just trying to, give them some type of introduction, or they've got some ability and they want them to learn what it's all about, learn about racing. This filly, I thought, had a very good lesson, and when you think Sales won 2 out of 3 now, Dawn Calling looks decent, Diamond in the Sky looks decent, Fortissimus was strongly fancied in the race, that ran down the field. There were horses here that got some ability.
Yeah, you keep your eye on Diamond Sky. Watch the race very, very clearly. That when it won last time with Brandon Aludi, as you know, it's got the Alish Nadu colours now. He's bought her. He got it for a very good price when Ray Kudak sold up, and came down the outside when it won. This time it got stuck in between them. You could see it was running in snatches. Didn't know what to do, and I found that at night, James. These first timers and even the horses that run here, under the lights, night time, they get a little bit lost. Diamond and Sky won in the daytime last time. It was a Sunday meeting. This is the night time. Keep an eye on that one. That one in a very good race too. We found a lot of trouble.
Okay, we're going to go on and have a look at Turfentine on the inside track. Saturday the 21st of May, race 1, the 2-year-olds maiden juvenile plate. They went 1,000 metres. We picked up the Gary Alexander runner here, Called to Battles. It's named by Cahal and bred by Backworth Stud. Very, very encouraging first run. Let's go and see this one.
Yeah, Andrew Fortune, John 6. Thought he was very easy on this filly. Let everything go against him. He sits at the back of the fields. Back of the field. He drops it out to last. Completely gets it on the fence. He sits at the back. A small field, James, so you can get away with it a little bit. He's got a nice little spot there. What, 4.5, 5 lengths off them. It's not a bad position to be in, but drifts a little bit in the betting, so it wasn't really fancied. And Andrew, you can see at the back of the field, a lot of horses going quite well up front. He just gives it a little bit of a nudge. Gary Alexander horses, they really, really improved. Goes between horses here, which is quite impressive for a first timer. Slips through them now. Andrew, no stick. He's got absolutely, he's not asking her for a big effort. He gives it a couple of smacks on the left, down the shoulder. Just moving up quietly. The 3 in front are going hell for leather. They sticks are out. The race is going
It's just
mad.
hands and heels.
His hands and heels. He comes right up them and he gets beat a length and a half, maybe 2 lengths. I'll tell you what, I would be very, very surprised over a 1200 if that gets beat next time.
Yeah, certainly bred to go the trip, and looks like you can be with Call to Battle next time that runs. We then go to Scottsville, and very seldom do I pick up my own horses, but this is trained by me, and we think this is quite a good filly, and so she proved in her first run. We thought she'd run in the first 4, but I thought this was quite impressive. Let's go and pick her up at the start. Captain's Mole, the Captain L filly, bred by Claverflame.
Dr. Lambetti gets the ride from draw 3, comes out, James, plops it in straight behind. A little bit sluggish out. It's normally for a first timer, you can expect this. A little bit disappointed to see the guys diving to the inside again of Scottsville, because we've got the big feature races coming up in 2 weeks' time. Everybody's going to the inside. Duncan Hours also comes across. I mean, it's really, really travelling as well. Blaze of Mystery, Muzi Yeni in front. Your horse is at the back, James, with the white face on the fence. For a first timer, you know it's definitely not going to just go shooting through there unless there's something very, very special. But Dr. Lambetti is on its case a little bit, just keeping it in the race. He decides now he can see he's not going to get through anywhere. Pulls it right to outside, which I think was quite a good move on his behalf now. He's going to give it every possible chance now. He still hasn't given the spec yet, but he's dying. He changes his stick. Goes one in the left now, and another one in the left. He's about to change his stick now. Changes his stick, gives him the right over here. The horse of Duncan House has been in front all the time. I mean, these horses have all won races, and they've all got the experience, and your horse really, really runs on well. Very encouraging for a first-timer maiden, And to run second in a race like that, beating winners, as you'd say in the classics, a winner without a penalty.
Yeah, well, they were half a second faster than the colts. You know, we were going to pull out horse cards, which won the colts race. He won a good race, but we picked him up as a horse to follow, and he won very well. But this was half a second faster. Now, half a second's about close to 3 lengths.
Yeah, no, listen, it's very impressive, and I'm a believer in times too, as you'll know, and very good run, well done.
Well, interesting, these horses to follow. They come out and win. The horses that we pick out, Sale we picked out as a horse to follow, that came out and won.
It's 1-2 now, yeah.
Yeah, there have been a couple of good ones. Blue Mountain, something or other, won during the week. But we got an interesting show ahead of us. We're going to be chatting to Dr. Ralph Katzwinkel about Jet Explorer and other veterinary matters, obviously, but very interesting story, Jet Explorer, and we got some footage which I think you'll really like. But let's move on and go and have a look at Blast from the Past. We've got the Daily News.
Soft falling rain, pull it clear. Soft falling rains won the SA Nursery by 3.
Racing in the 2000 Guineas. Gates fly and they're racing in the Godolphin Mile.
They're off and racing.
Weight didn't matter. Class tells, soft falling rain, much too good. Soft falling rain, an impressive Guineas winner. Soft falling rain is drawing clear.
He's made it 7 out of 7 by winning here today.
But it's soft falling rain who is powering away. We'll see out the mile in style. A high-class performer wins the Nay of Joel Stakes.
In a straight line, Daily News 2000, and they set free from their 2000. King Fernando missed the break, 5 lengths. Club Victor up the inside, an early leader, Lazar's right there. Red blinkers of Conquered Dreams in touch, Irish Flame. L's Deputy, Smangy, a line of 6 going into that turn. Nurtuk Flyers just in behind this group with Bull Sara. Iliad's on the outside, the black cap, Delotto. Then comes Bold Silvano, given a patient ride, I Wanna Dance. King Fernando's the trailer and 9 lengths off them. Conquered Dream looks to match strides with L's Deputy in the early stages. Irish Flame gets up to be third on the outside of Club Victor back at the fence. Lazar the next call, Bull Sara, Smangy. If you're looking for Nurtuk Flyer, he's mid-division, 6 lengths off the leader. Delotto's further back in the running, Bold Silvano. They're racing about 7-8 lengths off them. King Fernando is still the trailer. I Wanna Dance on the inside. 1,000 ago, L's Deputy and Conquered Dream. Smangy's in the open, Club Victor. Irish Flames hot on the trail, just 2.5 lengths off them. Bull Sara at the rail, Lazar between them. Nurtuk Flyer on a double rein at this point in time, 6 lengths to trace down. Iliad's on the outside, Delotto. Bold Silvano's only got 2 behind him. I Wanna Dance and King Fernando. Homeward bound in the Daily News 2000. Conquered Dream looks to move up. Over towards the outside, Irish Flame. Club Victor goes towards the inside, Lazar. Nurtuk Flyer still got 3 lengths to make up. Needs some luck in running. 300 to go. Irish Flame looks to move up. L's Deputy, Bull Sara. Here comes Nurtuk Flyer, 1.5 to make up. But Irish Flame came into the lead. Bold Silvano's running on late on the outside. Irish Flame, Bold Silvano's coming with a surging run on the outside. Irish Flame holds him though. Irish Flame from Bold Silvano. Lazar looks to get up for third, and Nurtuk Flyer.
Well, there you go. Cracking good ride from our co-presenter here, KB Che. You get a present from the owners?
He promised me something. I don't know. I don't remember collecting it. Maybe
probably in the post.
Maybe it's in the post. It was JJ, was it?
Yeah, JJ.
I'll have to phone him and ask him. Because Mr. Cantor used to be quite a genius man in the old days, but I don't know, this one maybe still in the post.
Yeah. But Bold Silvano then went on and won the July. It was a good Daily News.
Yeah, I walked into the winner's box then. I said to Mark, I've got a problem with this horse in the July. I'm worried about your horse, Bold Silvano. He gave me 6 or 7 length start, made it up, needed the run. But we went in the July, the draw went against me, and Bold Silvano had the run of the race. I had to go around. A horse of Sean Terry's, Felix rode it. I had to go around. Anthony slipped up on the inside, I think it was. Yeah, so and we run 1-2 in the July.
Well done, Kev. We're going to go to see a race, and we'll be back with Plum of the Week.
Gonna whip them in as they flatten for the run to the judge. Just on 400 metres left to go. Silver Laurel and Purple River frolic up the middle. Deeper out we got Gary Bouquet, who's in hot pursuit. Next towards the inside we find Eliodora, then comes Mrs. Gray. We're into the final 200 and Gary Bouquet gets driven into the lead. Along the inside of her we find Silver Laurel, then comes the Purple River, but Gary Bouquet is finally gonna get it right today, and Gary Bouquet comes home to win it from Silver Laurel Floric. Behind that Limpopo River and Eliodora.
Well, this filly started really short in the bet in Carrie Bouquet, but Interbet, you could always got close to even money on this filly, and she looked like the right one, and it was very nice to see her win. She'd been knocking at the door, and she's beautifully bred.
Yeah, well done to Mary Slack. Those black and black colours with the red cap. I had so much success with them, with Athena, Kavanagh. We can go back and just talk about them, and Mary deserves all the success she can. She's really putting good breeds together and producing very good livestock for South African racing.
She bought this as a raced filly in overseas, and obviously bought her for a pedigree by Fastnet Rock out of a Sadler's Wells mare. You know, you just cannot find blood like that. Wonderful that that type of blood's coming into this country, you know.
Yeah, that's Mary for you, and Jess, they put it all together, and well done. It makes us proud to be South Africans when you see horses like that come out of there.
Well done to the team, and for those of you that ever wanted to have a bet at Kenilworth, that was the first bet. The second bet we'll see in current affairs, which we're going to move on to now.
Yes! If you love soccer and you play the tote, you won't believe what Interbet has to offer you, or the excitement of tote betting on your computer or your cell phone. It's simple. Choose your teams and your bets, work out what your combinations will cost, see how big the pool is, and place your bets. You can even track your bet live as it happens and get updates on your progress. It's all the fun of the tote on your phone. So what are you waiting for? Sign up now at www.interbet.co.za and you could be a winner.
Well, we've got a lot of interesting news in current affairs. We'll be talking about some overseas stuff, but let's go and have a look at the Betting World 1900, which was run on Friday night. Very successful meeting, and the story was our Team Canama, Anthony Del Pesce, were going to win this. And remember, last year, this is how they came through to win the July, and have a very close look at this horse, Solid Speed. He just beat Saint-Tropez. We'll pick him up at the 1200.
King of Pain, at the back is half the deficit, and that's racing about 14 lengths off the leader. On settling down, Sarissa, the white cap is the leader. Silver Spring is back in second, and then comes Master Swedge. Dynastic Powers 3 deep with the green cap. At the rail, Greek Legend and Master's Eye travel together. Further back in the run is Night Shadow. That's about 7 lengths off the lead. Disco Elders along the inside of that. Solid Speed is now on the move, about 6 or 7 lengths off them. The Conglomerate's also starting to make progress. Dynamic, it is written as along the inside. Homeward Bound in the Betting World 1900. Sarissa the leader. Dynastic Power the first one to challenge. Master Switch goes in for a run. On the outside, Solid Speed. Down the inside, Greek Legend. And here's Solid Speed, and the Conglomerate runs on powerfully. Down the inside, Master Switch. But Solid Speed's the leader, and running on is Saint-Tropez, the Conglomerate on the outside. Solid Speed's looking for the line. Solid Speed and Saint-Tropez. Solid Speed, Saint-Tropez. Solid Speed won it. Saint-Tropez second, Dynamic and the Conglomerate.
Well, this horse looks like a big improver, Kev, and he's certainly on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony was at him the whole way. You could see he's dying to go the 2-2. Top ride from Anthony. Pulled him out of the top of the straight, and the horse quickened up. The first time we've really seen him turn it on, and Anthony still gives him a chance. But I was with Anthony after the race, and he said, I got there too quickly, Kevin, and that's why he was running around the finished. Saint-Tropez, Joey Ramsden's horse. Anton Marcus had been telling me for 6 weeks, Kevin, this is a dark horse in the July, keep an eye on it, and I couldn't get my head around it. Now I saw that, now all of a sudden he's got to be in, because he'll come in with no weight on his back. The Conglomerates and Dynamic were 3rd and 4th, and good runs. This is a pointer. These horses will run in the July, and it's starting to get interesting now. We've got the Daily News this Saturday. So now we'll know exactly where we're going now. So it's going to be interesting. It's the 3-year-olds on Saturday, so we'll see who the best is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, this horse, you can't discount him. The Conglomerate would be my dark horse here. He looked like he needed the run, and he ran a very good race indeed.
Absolutely, and I think the draws for the July this year are going to be super, super, super important.
Okay, well, let's go and have a look at the Winter Classic, because now this horse is coming down for the July. After his easy win, they decided this is where he's going. So let's go and have a look at the winner of the Winter Classic.
Shall Be Free is racing next, then comes Larimer. Jeremy is racing towards the rear of the field, leaving only Brilliant Crimson and Villa Kazi, the two at the back, as heads turn for home with just over 500 metres left to go, and Paladin will bring the field for home in the Winter Classic. From in second we got Royal Badge. Next along the inside, ready to attack, and Marinaresco is on the heels of the leaders. Whiskey Baron is coming through on the inside rail, then comes Streak of Silver. Next it Shall Be Free. We're into the final 300. Royal Badge in front. Paladin along the inside. Look left. Here comes Marinaresco. He's starting his run, and he's coming through into the closing stages. Whiskey Baron is trying to go with him, but Marinaresco, hands and heels, comes home to win it. Marinaresco beats Whiskey Baron. Then came Royal Badge and Paladin.
Marinaresco. There's a lot of talk about this horse not going for the Triple Crown in Cape Town, which was Pocket Power's way, and maybe this is Mike's swan song, Mike Bass's swan song.
Listen, there's always a good story in the writing, but he was very impressive. I think he's a very, very nice horse, James. He won effortlessly, but how good was the field? You know, we want to see him run against. I wish he was running in the Daily News or something like that. Then you could really assess something, but. I'm sure he's got to have another run before the July here in Durban, surely. I don't know what their plans are, but it'll be interesting. I think he's a super horse. In that class of field, he destroyed them.
Yeah,
I mean, he
absolutely.
sat behind him, pulled him out, and then there was race over.
He's a very nice horse. He's a Silvano, and there's a lot thought of him. We've had him on the show before, and we like this horse a lot, and we wish him the very best. No one would be happier than us to see Mike Bass win the July in a swan song. But the Preakness is the second leg of the Triple Crown in the United States, and we thought that Nyquist was the absolute bee's knees. We thought this would win. We got the Preakness going through the 800, and we got it from the start, actually. The super sub Raymond tells me from the start we're going with the Preakness. Let's go and have a look at what happened at Pimlico in Baltimore.
They're off in the Preakness. Lonnie was away slowly again. Nyquist had a good beginning, and Uncolino goes with him, and so does Awesome Speed. So they surround Nyquist early on. Collected is going up and is close up to the pace. Running in fourth early on. Then Lauban, followed by Abiding Star, who's sitting behind the front runners today. And then it's Stradivari. Exaggerator is a good 13 lengths off of Nyquist, who's head and head up front with Uncolino going into that turn. Then Fellowship, and at the back of the field are Cherry Wine and Lauban. The pace is very fast, a 22 and 1 opening quarter mile, so Nyquist is forced to work early here. He's got Lauban on his inside, and Awesome Speed is running in third just behind the leaders. Then Collected, followed by Stradivari toward the inside, who's about 4 lengths off the lead. Lauban is next. Now Exaggerator is down on the inside. Ken DeSormo has him about 6 lengths off the lead, and Nyquist is up front. His nemesis is 5 lengths ahead of him as Exaggerator makes steady progress on the rail. Up front, it is Uncolino, who continues to cling to Nyquist. Nyquist with a head in front, and on their outside, Awesome Speed. And there's Exaggerator. He's so much closer today after a 46 2/2 mile, and they move for the far turn. Uncolino has been pressuring Nyquist the whole way. Awesome Speed is third, Collected fourth, Stradivari, and Exaggerator is right on the rail, and he's 2 lengths off the lead, and Uncolino continues to battle Nyquist on the far turn. Exaggerator and Stradivari are both in contention. And now Mario Gutierrez is asking Nyquist for his run. And they're into the stretch. And it's Nyquist in front. His adversary Exaggerator got a jump on him. And he's gone by to take the lead as they come to the 8th pole. It is Exaggerator in front. Now Nyquist switches back to the outside. Exaggerator down to the 16th pole. The gutty Nyquist is coming at him in second. And then Stradivari followed by Cherry Wine. But Exaggerator has turned the tables. He has won the Preakness Stakes. It was very close for second. Nyquist and Cherry Wine were right together. And then it was Loud on the outside. Lonnie followed by Stradivari. And the final time was 1 minute 58.31.
Well, there you go, Kev. Kentosormo, master.
Yeah, stayed on the inside fence until the home straight in the slop, as they call it in America, and pulled on the outside like that. But the fractions, James, as we mentioned earlier, you go 21 the first bit, and Nyquist, I think the guy, well, according to the papers, he used the horse up too much. And he had horses chasing him all the way too. That's what they do. They try to, American Pharaoh they tried it with. And they try and push them on and try and get them beat. And no luck.
Well, he was slated in the paper because they did the fastest first quarter in the Preakness since 1909.
Yes.
And this horse has run from off them. It's not like he's a front-running horse. And they say that, in that type of going, he absolutely didn't. But I take nothing away from the winner. Kent rode it for his brother Keith, who's older than him. And they're really starting to make a mark in America. And it's fantastic. The first three are all going for the Belmont. They're all going to New York for the Belmont. So that will be
very interesting to see that. But when you're in those conditions, I think if that jock could just give him just a little bit of a chance, like you say, he comes from behind. I think he was scared to get in that kickback and that slop. You know, if you look at those horses at the back there, you think the sand's hard on horses. When it's like that, they get blasted.
Well, what the paper said was 245 to 1 shots dueling with him, and he's in between them, and just that's had to pay its toll. The guy who wrote it, Gutierrez, he's a youngster. Maybe he did go too quick, too early. But just talking about America, we're talking about last week about this $12 million race.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Dan Schaefer. He's bought a share. He put in his $1 million, doesn't own a horse, never owned a horse in his life. 32-year-old, but he's been a fan all his life. His grandfather and his father were both bettors, and both took him to the Kentucky Derby. He met Bob Baffert at the Kentucky Derby, saw him pull up in his white Jaguar and had a picture taken. Been a fan. Now, this is the type of story that one wonders why we can't reenact in horse racing, certainly in this country and all over the world.
Yeah, the only strange thing that worries me, he's put his $1 million down, James, but he hasn't got a horse. What does he do?
He can sell it to someone else, or he can go in partnership with someone.
Yeah.
And that's what he's saying. He's saying, there's a great introduction to horses. I'll put my $1 million in, and I'll sit and wait until after the Breeders' Cup.
Somebody will come and offer me
someone will want a slot, and I'll decide who I'm going to put in. I've got the slot.
Doesn't own a racehorse now. He's got control of the best horses in the world at the moment now. Yeah,
someone who doesn't have. But it was interesting who bought. Coolmore bought, Stronach, all the top guys have bought a slot.
Sold out and paid for in 1 week.
Yeah,
that was it. $12 million.
And this guy, Dan Schaefer, we're going to watch with interest. He wouldn't let them take his picture. He comes from Detroit. That's all they know. And they know he's in the pizza business. But they know nothing else. 32 years old.
Fantastic.
He's been a fan for 16 years since he had his picture taken with Bob Baffert at the Kentucky Derby. So, this is how fans are made in this business. People who are in it, when someone wants to have your picture taken with your little kid or whatever, take it and take it graciously. Jockeys, trainers, we're important people. Horses,
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. We're going to watch this space now. This is going to be interesting. We're going to see where this guy goes on. Mr. Schaffer, we'll call him from now, the 36-year-old millionaire. 32-year-old millionaire. He's going to be...
Do you think he's got a few trainers phoning him looking to buy him a few horses?
I like to say he's going to be maybe a big contender. Can you imagine if he pulled it off?
Wow.
That'll be him in the game for the rest of his life.
Well, I think he is anyway. He's one of those guys. Yeah. But he says he's going to see his options. He said he thought of buying yearlings, 2-year-olds, whatever, this and that and the other. A couple of other points. Abashiri, horse of the season in Joburg. Terry, Kamalo, the usual suspects.
Callum Murray, they deserved it. The normal guy. They deserved it, and it was the right result,
Yeah.
as you would say in the classics.
Yeah, the other big classic, talking about the classics, were the two Irish classics, the 1,000 Guineas and 2,000. The 2,000, well, Atward won it for Kevin Prendergast, who's 83 years old.
Yes.
I think he's older than Ferraris, and he's still training. And he won it for Sheikh Mohammed, which was great. But the 1,000 Guineas was the interesting one, because Minding was the hot favourite in the race.
Yeah, it looked the horse to beat, Ryan Moore. He got beat he was on the favourite in both, the Gold Cup and the 1,000 Guineas, and they both got beat by outsiders. So, yeah, and I watched the race too. They didn't just only get beat, they got thrashed.
Well, the point is, Minding, the third horse was 10 lengths away.
Yeah,
so she ran a cracking good race. But this filly that won cost 12,000 Guineas at the October horses in training sale, Tattersalls horses in training sales. So it shows you can go buy a horse. It was the end of its 2-year-old career. Richard Hannon had it. They sold it to Adrian Keatley is the guy's name. And he won a little race with it, then won a group and ended up running in the Irish 1,000 and winning it.
Worth a fortune though. Absolutely. You win the 1,000 Guineas, that's what you want to win.
Okay, well, just talking about the rest, we got big racing this weekend. We got
Daily News 2000. This is the stepping stone towards the July. Something worth watching all the time.
And the Will Avington for the fillies.
Will Avington for the fillies. It's going to be interesting. So the big boys in town. It's fantastic racing in Durban at the moment. Thoroughly enjoyed Friday night. Buzz on the race course. The view room was chock-a-block. Went to the front of the stands. The people were all over the show. Absolutely beautiful.
Did you tip a winner?
Tipped a couple of winners.
Oh, well, that's good.
So
okay.
It was actually ended up a punter's day at the end.
Oh, good. Well done. Thank you, Kev. Thanks for joining us. And best to Laf, who's had another transfusion, for those of you that want to know. But he's well on the way to amend, and we wish him the best and quick recovery. We'll be back with Ralph Katzwinkel. Well, here we go. Let's go with Your Call. And Your Call's magazine program that we try and talk about things that are interesting and things that have happened. And there was a horse called Jet Explorer, which some of you might or might not remember, but he had a terrible fall at Clearwood, on the old Clearwood racecourse. So it was quite a number of years ago, where he broke his jaw completely. And Dr. Ralph Katzwinkel put his jaw together, screwed him up, tied him up, did the whole thing. And the horse came out last week and won the Poly Challenge over 1,600 meters, having taken a bit of time to get his confidence, but his form just looked like it was getting there. And very nice to have Ralph with us in the studio. Ralph, unbelievable job you guys do. I've always been fascinated with vets, because you've got to be different type of people. To work with something that's sick all your life is not easy.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely challenge, and I think it's a bit of a calling. I think you really got to be passionate. And well, I've been in the game now nearly 36 years, so to be challenged with an event like this was extraordinary. I was at the races. I think I had 2 runners in the race before this accident. And when Justin called me in desperation, please come and have a look, I mean, I knew Jet Explorer, tending to him in his daily routine. Difficult out of the stable to work with. But seeing them standing there with the jaw hanging and blood coming out was just devastating. And you know, being given the opportunity now to do something and repair that was a nice challenge. And yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll go through that, but just talking about it at the time. Now, you got this horse standing there on the race course. He's got his jaw hanging off, wasn't it? It was like just
Correct,
hanging
yeah.
by the skin because it was so badly broken.
Yeah.
He'd fallen on his jaw, hadn't he? And,
Correct.
and just broken it off. So he'd obviously hit it like that.
Yeah, his lower jaw, the mandible, was split down the middle, and then fractured across where the canines are, where the tushes are.
Yeah.
So there were two large fragments on the front of the jaw, the lower jaw.
Yeah.
And then only later did I discover that the upper jaw was completely severed as well.
Now you've got to get him on a float with this jaw like this. Did you tie it up or hold it together? Or?
You know, what happens is the adrenaline's pumping in a horse like that. They're in a state of shock. So luckily he hadn't injured any other part of his body. He wasn't, the head, the neck, or the rest of the head, the neck, the limbs were all normal. He could walk. So he was sedated and then transported to the hospital.
Put in the float, transported to the hospital, put him on the table?
No. You see, what we had to do now, trying to repair a fracture of that nature under general anesthetic, your problem is your recovery. Firstly, you've got the risk of anesthetic because he's just raced.
Okay.
He's stressed.
Yeah.
So you have a risky anesthetic. Horses are a risky anesthetic at the best of times, but when you have a horse that's had an injury like that, it's a problem. Plus the recovery. Now you repair something like that in recovery, that you can't prevent him damaging it again in the recovery. They fall around getting up, so you would have just smashed it
Because
again.
they're quite groggy, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't hold them down or anything. Anyway, so the decision was to repair it standing. And I've got a crush, and we sedated him. So we had like a drip with a tranquilizer running the whole time. And then you physically had to do the repair job.
Was this the first for you guys to do something like this?
This severity, yes. And most of them, well, all of them I've done in the past really have been under general anesthetic, where you have one portion of the mandible or maxilla broken, you attach it to the parent. That's fine because the whole structure is stable. Remember, the upper jaw and the lower jaw were in fact loose. They were just, you could do that with them. They were like a jigsaw. Only the skin and the tissue were holding it in place. So the challenge really is now, how do we repair it? And you've got to repair it in this plane and in this plane.
Yes.
And you do it with wiring. So you repair it like you would build a suspension bridge. So you bring wires from the rear. We'll see that in the videos, in the images. You've got to attach wires at the rear teeth.
Let's get the
Images
initial ones up so we can see initially what we got. Some slides. Thank you, Ralph. Send us some slides. Now this is the initial one. This is where you start. That looks like a mess.
It does. You can actually see the lower jaw split in two.
Yes.
You've got 3 teeth on that side and 3 teeth on that side. So you can see it's fractured right down the middle.
Okay, then we move on and we've got another one of these.
Okay, there you can see that same fracture line running straight down the middle.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then now you've got to repair this. Okay, so now you look and you just pulled the tongue out the side of his mouth, and you've got wire in there already. So you've obviously.
So that's now after the repair. So first you have to clean it. It's full of grass and dirt and everything. So you clean the fracture line, and then you wire it together literally, like you go to the orthodontist to have your teeth sorted out. So the teeth are used as anchor points. So you weave the wire between the teeth and then tighten them. If you over tighten it, it snaps. If you under tighten it, it's loose. So you had to get that tension right. So in getting the fracture down the middle had to be tied together.
Yes.
Okay. Then the fracture line at the back, you had to tie a tied wire between the canine teeth. And now you've still got this angle that you've got to repair. And that you've got to, the technique there is to cut a hole in the cheek and then drill between your premolar and molar. You find that gap. Now you've got to find that gap by fingering and
just by feeling.
By feeling, and then you drill between it to make space for the wire. Then you feed the wire through, pull it towards yourself, and then bring it forward and wind around the teeth. So it's a challenge. You have to do it 4 times.
So this is that piece of wire now on the outside here. Okay, then we move on to the next one and we'll see.
Okay, now you can get an idea of, these are obviously the wires that were used and that were cut and removed once it had healed. And you can see the wires running forward and the wires running around the front.
Did you just do this by just having a look at that? It looks like it's amazingly intricate. Did you do this by just, okay, well, I'll have a go at it, I can do it? You know, because
look,
they can't have taught you in vet school to wire up a horse at jaw like that.
No, they're techniques you learn. I've done courses in orthopedic surgery and you learn how to do that. But the severity of this fracture was, I mean, if I'd known the extent at the racecourse, I'm not sure whether I would have taken it on. It was, I could see Justin's face. He was devastated. I mean, unbelievably devastated. The horse was devastated, you know, just in shock. And I thought, okay, all I've got is one fracture down the middle. And I can fix it, I can just join that, it's easy. But then I realized only after examination it was fractured across as well, and the top jaw was completely fractured. So there was no stable jaw really, the front of the whole face.
That you could hold everything onto.
And so anyway, I must compliment the team at the time. I mean, 6 o'clock in the evening, the horse arrives. Saturday evening, we've got to get a team together. They were unbelievable. I mean, the nurse, the other vets involved, and we got, you know what gave me hope is when I physically held the fragments together, you know what happens with bone, it doesn't shear off in a straight line.
Yeah.
When you have when you damage something, it's jagged, so it's like a jigsaw.
Like a jigsaw, yeah.
So if you can get the ends together properly, you've got stability. Then you've just got to hold it in place.
Yeah.
And that gave us hope.
Okay, so let's move on and have a look at the next picture. This is the wire, and you've got some of the wire here, so we can hold that up. But that's the wire that you took out of his mouth.
These are the longer pieces that came from the back teeth to the front.
Okay, let's have a look at the longer pieces that Ralph's got here.
Those are the longer pieces that went from the molars and premolars forward to the incisors. So that basically stabilized that function.
Yeah.
And then these smaller ones were the ones that went across in the front of the mandible.
Fascinating. You got another slide there, Ray? Let's have a look and see what else we got.
There you can see the actual wires that are coming forward, and then you can see the ones going across.
And this is obviously now, you've got the 3 red lines. Those are the stabilizers.
That's where the fracture lines were in the lower jaw.
Yeah.
And then I think we've got one more x-ray coming up.
Another x-ray, let's have a look.
Yeah.
There we go.
So there's a fracture of the upper jaw.
Straight through the top.
Yeah,
through his
it was
nasal.
completely loose. You can actually see the overbite that was created by the fracture. I mean, Jet Explorer didn't have a parrot mouth.
Yeah.
That was created by the fracture.
And it's fascinating that you can sit down and do something like this. It must have given you guys an unbelievable sense of accomplishment to see this horse win the other day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I must obviously thank the divines, Pat and Henry. I mean, you're dealing with really genuine people who love the horse and love the industry. They gave the horse a chance. And it's a combination of many things. You look at Justin and the Snaith team giving that horse that extra time to get to this point. It costs money to keep a horse going for that long, and they deserve to be rewarded for what they've invested. Not only in the surgery, but in horses as a whole.
I don't think money is an overriding point, but it must be quite expensive to have done something like this.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to talk about the costs of this procedure directly because I think it's unfair on the owners. I don't want to divulge that. But if I was...
While you're gathering your wits, okay, when I'm talking about money, let's just take a little break because we've got a Magic Million horse, and we'll be back with you.
Okay.
Awesome, Adam. That's our winner from Magic Millions. We're going to take a break and watch a race, and we'll be back with Dr. Ralph Katzwinkel to hear what he's got to say about cash. Well, we've had a race, so you've had time to think about, what you're going to say. Vets, the saying is, you charge like wounded buffalo.
Yeah.
Is that so?
I think it's true. I'm an owner. I've got shares in, I think, 14 horses in training. I get my own vet bill because that's the way the system works. And it is expensive. I make no bones about it. It's very expensive to run a veterinary practice. And let's just address the surgery for an example. I'm going to give an example. If you had a horse tomorrow that fell like this and I had to repair it, you're looking at 25 to 30,000 Rand for the surgery. That's after hours with my whole team. Okay.
Which I don't think is that expensive, funny enough.
No, well, I'm referring now, it's escalated slightly to what it was in 2014, but 25 to 30,000.
That's a surgery.
Then the horse stayed in hospital with aftercare for, I think it was nearly 3 months. Okay. And that came to another 30, 40,000 Rand, more or less.
10,000 a month.
Yeah.
Same as having a horse in training, so it's you know.
So that's the keep, the boarding, the care, the everything. So you're looking at, it had to happen today or tomorrow on a horse, you're looking at about 70,000 Rand. Which sounds a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but you know, in the scheme of things of what you're buying and what you're getting, it's not that bad, in my opinion.
No. I think the problem comes, and now we are talking about, we've talked about Jet Explorer, and we want to just say, before we close on him, that racing is indebted to people like yourselves who do this work. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I don't know how you do it, because my mother sent me to go and work with a vet, with Maurice Azzi, for a month in my holidays, because I thought I wanted to be a vet. Well, there's no way that I could be a vet. I could not work with sick animals all my life. So you're a really special type of people. So I work with healthy animals, and you come fix my sick ones, which is much more gratifying to me. But not only that, you do quite a lot of work in getting yourselves to that situation where you become vets. So, you know, doctors charge, dentists charge, veterinary surgeons charge. The trouble with veterinary surgeons is they're not like a necessary. You know, they're looking after your sport, your sideline, your hobby. So it makes it difficult to get people to understand why vets charge what they do. But you can tell me more about it.
Look, just to come back to what I said earlier, I think it is expensive, and it bothers me really. I would love to do the work and not charge for it. Money is unfortunately required to make the whole wheel go round. So, and I think if you look at vets as a whole, they're passionate and they care for the animal. And you know, if you look again how we work, we go and attend to the animal, whether we're going to get paid or don't get paid. In most cases, you swing for the money. So it's that compassion and that service that you deliver at the time, the collection, and that becomes an after effect. And in a way that has a problem, because I think if you look at this, the trainer trusts their vet, they call the vet in, the work is done, he's happy with the work. The unfortunate thing is the owner is not present at the time. They don't see what is done. Yeah. And they then are surprised to get an account in the first place. And then the rand value of that account can be a major problem. But they never perceive that. They haven't bought that service. And they have no control over that expense. The trainer and the vet are spending their money, and people that are successful in business and own racehorses, they don't like that. I can understand that. And we really desperately need to find a solution to that. I can see a crossroads that we're running into where veterinary fees are escalating because of the nature of our whole way you run a practice. The costs, the input costs are high. You know, to employ a vet, 10 years experience, 50 to 60,000 Rand a month salary. Okay, that's not an enormous salary, but you have a lot of downtime. You have to service 24 hours a day, every day of the week. I think our equipment and our facilities are underutilized compared to medical practices or hospitals.
Well, you have, just on that point, you have a whole setup, don't you? You have not only are you able to do bloods and laboratories and all those type of things, but you have an operating table with all the equipment needed to operate on any type of injury to a horse. A horse fractures its leg, has a green stick fracture of the cannon bone. You guys can put screws in at the call like that.
correct.
But that sits there most of the time doing nothing.
That's absolutely right. And
is that the problem?
That's part of the problem. You know, if we look in Summerveld, there are 3 hospitals, there's 3 theatres, there's 3 practices offering 24-hour service. You have to have a team available at any time to do any type of surgery. And I've noticed and I've seen a number of surgeries diminishing because of the cost. We're at a crossroads. The owners are under pressure to meet the training fees, let alone the additional veterinary fees. So trainers are unfortunately in a conundrum. They're not getting enough income from training fees in most instances, not all trainers, to just cover their costs. And then on top of that, there's veterinary costs, and the owners are under pressure.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring you on to a point which I find as a trainer very difficult to stomach. The cost of vaccinations. And we know what the vaccines cost, and we know what you charge to vaccinate them. There's a huge disparity between the cost and the vaccination fee that's charged. Why is that so?
Yeah.
And surely something like that should be addressed, because everyone's got to fall into place. Now, my vets, and I use the other practices, you know, they say, we set down by the Veterinary Council, we got to charge that. I can't understand that and get my head around that, and nor can my owners get their head around paying 5 times what it costs to inject a vaccine into a horse, and the vaccine takes 10 seconds to inject it and fill in the passport.
All right, nice question. There are a couple of things. You get cross-subsidization of services. As I mentioned earlier, you know, if you can't be in equine practice without a digital X-ray. A digital X-ray will cost you 900,000, R1 million. Okay, we've just recently had to replace one. So that's sitting, let's say, 80% of the time dormant. So you're only using 20% of its ability or capacity. So the same with the theatre, the same with so a lot of the equipment, ultrasound, okay, they're not fully utilized. So what happens is that you have a baseline which was in the years gone by set by Veterinary Council. They've had to stop setting fees because of the Competition Commission rulings. So
they don't. So let's get that clear. They don't set fees anymore.
Not allowed to.
Okay.
So what's happened is
when my vet tells me it's set by the Veterinary Council, that's not correct.
Not any longer.
Okay.
Used to be.
Yeah.
So, but that if one goes back, I think it's the last 5 or 6 years, it stopped. There was a baseline. Now, looking at the fee that is raised for the vaccination, I think one must also just realize that there's an enormous onus of the veterinarian as far as certifying something. And most warnings off by Vet Council of veterinarians are associated with vaccination certificates, mainly in the dogs and cats, but anything to do with certifying that a vaccine has been administered. So there's a responsibility. The procedure is easy, but that whole cold chain of receiving the vaccine, making sure it's cold, bringing it to the yard in the right, let's say, cool state, vaccinating the horse, signing the certificate. There's a lot of responsibility, and that's why if you look at even dogs and cats vaccines, there's a reasonably high charge for that procedure because of that aspect of it.
All right, you move on to, it still doesn't really make sense, because what we're in effect saying is that the vaccinations which have got to be done to the 1,000 horses in Summerveld are actually paying for equipment and upgrading of your hospital, or part of it's paying for it, okay? And where that galls some people is that they run an operation where they don't use those things much at all, because they look after the horses and they say, well, we don't ever have ultrasounds or scopes or operations done on our horses, because if we see a problem, we make sure that we don't, go and exacerbate the problem by galloping the horse or whatever, and then ending up with a big problem. So why should that man pay for all that equipment when he never uses it? Okay.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And one could do that, as you say, but then you have to then be realistic, and then an operation like the fracture of the jaw, maybe 150,000 rand. Okay, so
but that's the point.
And you know, what I believe really should happen, that if you have a share or own a horse in racing, racing should have a medical aid facility or an insurance facility where you cover for accident, illness, injury, surgery. They're covered. It's
Is it possible to do
It's
that?
possible to do it. I believe it. Look, I've tried, and
I know it
people
has
will
been
know.
tried. Yeah.
I had Equimed, which I started in the 80s and then sold to Hollard. Racing never went for it. You find that the sport horse owners are going for it more so than the racehorse owners. And there's two reasons I see. One is that if you have a certain amount of money or you're wealthy enough, you don't tend to want to insure. You take your own risk. So that's one big reason, especially the bigger owners. And the other thing is that what happens in racing is that there's a lot of elective work, discretional work, vitamins. You know, how many vitamins does a horse need, and how much do they need, and how much extra do they need? And that can't be controlled with any insurance product. So the answer really is to find somebody that can put a product together that can keep that elective or discretional work out of the equation, because otherwise it's just abused, and no insurance company will survive. And I believe it's possible. I think the numbers are good enough. So when it comes to anything, the owner just pays, I would say you could do it for between 800 and 1,000 Rand a month. If you take out the discretional things that trainers like to give horses, that the horse doesn't have to have. Essential vaccinations, deworming, dental care, accident, illness, injury. Insure for the expensive part of it, that your surgery is covered, your colics are covered, and then you have a little bit of income per horse for that, and I reckon 800 to 1,000 Rand a month.
What, Ralph, the most interesting question that I get asked a lot, what does it cost over a year to service a normal racehorse? What would be the average sort of fee? Do you have any ideas?
Going by what I've just said now, if you're looking at purely the basic requirements.
Vaccinations?
Yeah.
Okay. You might have to put a gelding in if it's a colt or gelding, but that's once in its lifetime. And then, you see, vitamins are, to me, an anomaly. I never use them. You know, if I want to give a horse a B12 or B complex, I'll give it myself. I won't go to the vet. But some trainers charge thousands of Rand to pre-race a horse, pre-race him. So he's getting, I don't know what he's getting in that period. So you've got to cut all that out. What does it cost to service a horse a year?
Okay, going by what I've just said now, you're looking at about 10 to 12,000 Rand.
So it's 1,000 Rand a month. Yeah. So what happens if you turn around and say to the owner of a horse, pay your trainer an extra 1,000 Rand a month, and we will service your horse? Not
That's fine, but you have to define what a horse really needs and what it doesn't require.
Well,
and that's where when I do let's say I did a deal with a trainer, yourself, and we agree, and you only do those essential things, it'll work. But you come along and you say, no, I want this, I want this, I want this, but I paid you. And that's where that grey area comes, and that's where, if we can control that, we can solve the problem.
Is there a huge discrepancy between yards to how they work with their horses?
Look, I must admit that you can ensure the well-being of horse by being more attentive. Let's do the comparison between cyclists. A cycling team, they have their physio, their doctor, they look at the individual and they nurture that individual and they get the peak performance out of that individual. And you know, when it comes to, let's go back in time a little bit. We were doing bloods on a regular basis on the top horses to such an extent that you knew each individual horse was giving us the norm. So we're doing bloods on a horse twice a week. So when a horse wins that Group 1, okay, the next time he's got to get him ready for the Group 1, you check your bloods and you make sure it's exactly on the same level. And that's how you end up getting successful with the top horses. And it makes a difference. So as much as I'm saying be careful with the discretional work, you can make a difference. Within the jockey lap, legal
yeah,
parameters.
yeah,
I'm not talking about anything illegal.
Just in wrapping up, what is the situation as far as the jockey club's concerned and illegal drugs? Most people seem to be caught on, it's just something that happened, and except they don't seem to be people doping horses. I've never come across that situation.
Yeah, they're therapeutic substances, or let's say legitimate substances that we use in horses that are unfortunately detected either because somebody's made a mistake or they're accidental positives. And it does give racing a very bad connotation because it's portrayed in the media as doping.
Yes.
To me, it's not really doping. Doping should be only referred to when it's an illegal substance that should not be used in racing. So a therapeutic positive is something that can happen, and it can happen in all kinds of sport. And the connotation needs to be changed. And I feel sorry for the trainers with the fines that are meted out by the NHRI. They've escalated dramatically, and to pay 2,000 Rand fine for a vaccine that's out by one day for flu is 500
Rand for a set of colours. You don't bring the colours or the passport to the races. It doesn't make sense.
We're all in the game. The NHRA is part of the game. It feeds off the game. We need to work together. The industry needs everyone to work together.
Ralph, on those fine words of wisdom, firstly, congratulations on Jet Explorer. We are so heartened and pleased by a story like that, and you deserve all the accolades you get. And so do the Snaiths for all the work they put in and your practice and that. And thank you so much as well for joining us, because it's always very interesting chatting to someone who's a professional in the industry.
Thank you, James. It's a great pleasure and a great honour to be invited. Thank you.
Dr. Ralph Katzwinkel, he certainly does a lot for the horse business, and you've got to take your hat off to every veterinary surgeon that ever works for the horse. They do a job most people would find not only onerous, tedious, but very, very difficult to do. And I salute them. I've worked with them all my life. They charge like wounded buffalo, but we still love them. And until next week, where we're going to be in Australia, Magic Millions, next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 2 weeks. We'll have Graham Hawkins in the studio doing the business. All of you, if you'd like to buy a horse at Magic Millions, well, you know how to get a hold of Paul Lafferty. He's the man in charge. From me, James Goodman, the whole Winning Ways team, thank you to everyone. We'll see you next time.
They dispatched in the Daily News Grade 1 from the 2,000 metre marker. Read all about it in the Daily News.